What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Water Cooler Talk. My name is Caleb Turner, and I'm a sports writer at KSL.com. It is a special Saturday edition of Water Cooler Talk. It's April 26th. Coming at you a bit early. I'll be traveling tomorrow, so I will not be in front of my microphone set up here in Salt Lake City to be able to record. So, recording a bit early, and everything that we were kind of covering this week ended today on Saturday. So, figured why not get out a bit early since I didn't record one last week over the Easter weekend. Cut that break a little short and give you something to talk about heading into, whether it be Sunday, your family dinner conversations on Sunday, or heading into Monday once people are back to their work convos around the water cooler. So, the biggest story, of course, for our NFL football fans would be the draft. Over the last 3 days, the NFL draft taking place in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Always a huge deal, and typically involves some players from the state of Utah, whether that be from high schools here in the state, from universities, with as many selections as there are in the draft, all 7 rounds, plenty of opportunities for players to hear their name called. And that was the case indeed over these last 3 days, starting with the first day on Thursday. We had a local first round pick, Jackson Dart, a quarterback who from Kaysville, played at Roy, and then ended up finishing his high school career at Corner Canyon. Because of course, right, that's where all the good quarterbacks go to play in the state of Utah. And he's kind of following in Zach Wilson's footsteps a little bit here, of another former Corner Canyon quarterback. Um, both starting their NFL careers in New York City. Jackson Dart, of course, did not go to college here in the state of Utah. Went to USC originally, then to Ole Miss, where he made a name for himself in the SEC. Like I mentioned, first round pick, 25th overall to the New York Giants. So not the Jets, the other New York team. So you don't have to worry too much about that old Jets curse. But we're not totally sure the Giants are in a much better place these days. Since moving on from Eli Manning and those contender type years, over a decade ago. You have the Daniel Jones experience, which they moved on from just last year, and now they're looking to the future, to a young 22-year-old quarterback in Jackson Dart, Utah native. So good for him. He was one of the big risers, I would say, over this draft process. Originally, even during the college football season, not necessarily even in many mock drafts. Started to kind of creep into those late rounds, and then maybe a month or two ago, creeping into that third, second round, and eventually finds himself all the way up to 25th overall into that first round. Second quarterback taken overall after Cam Ward was taken with the first overall pick. And quarterbacks were, kind of the talk of this draft. They always are. But this was a bit of a weak draft as far as quarterback talent went. And I think, which is a bit ironic because I think what was seen as who was one of them that was seen as one of the highest talents, biggest talents, I should say, Shadur Sanders, out of Colorado, Deion Sanders' son, his teammate, Travis Hunter, goes top three. Um, After winning the Heisman and all that, a lot of tension there. Shadur Sanders ends up falling past Jackson Dart, past the first round into the fifth round, eventually, and so that was obviously one of the big conversations around that. And the guy from Utah ended up coming out on the good side of that. However, one of the other fallers, whose name was kind of right behind Shadur Sanders in a lot of those, best available next pick. This is who we're expecting to see next throughout those second and third and fourth and fifth rounds, was Utah State wide receiver Jalen Royals, who, certainly not seen as a possible first rounder as Shadur Sanders was at one point, maybe a second or third rounder. But he started to fall as well until he was taken by the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think it ended up being a good situation for Jalen Royals in the fourth round. He gets to catch passes from Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, right? So, interesting opportunity there. Spent 2 years up in Logan with the Aggies, was their top receiver those 2 seasons. So congratulations to the second highest draft pick from the state of Utah, Jalen Royals, after first rounder Jackson Dart. There were several others as well with some Utah connections that heard their name called safety Jeffrey Bassa. He went to Kearns High School. He was drafted also by the Chiefs. And then another high school product out of Highland High, tight end Jackson Hawes played collegiately at Yale and Georgia Tech. He was taken in the fifth round, taken by the Bills. So once again, a tight end with some Utah connections, Dalton Kincaid a couple years ago, going from the University of Utah to the Bills. So kind of some familiar territory here. We got the Chiefs with Andy Reid. You've got the Bills with a couple connections there now as well. So interesting to see those. Probably the most interesting story of today, as we got into those later rounds, was the drafting of Caleb Lohner. Many of you will probably recognize that name. Played at both BYU and Utah. First as a basketball player, had a stint at Baylor in between as well. But then he finished up his college career playing football as a tight end at the U and went through kind of the draft process, had some workouts with teams, ended up getting drafted in the seventh and final round to the Denver Broncos. So shout out to Caleb Lohner. Had a chance to interact with him a couple times back when I was at BYU covering BYU men's basketball. As you can imagine, going to all those different schools and playing all those different sports, it's he was in college for a little while, and so was I. So we overlapped there for a little bit. So a very interesting story there, going from originally a pretty successful college basketball player to now getting drafted into the NFL. So not something you see every day. And that just about covers the stories locally, at least from the NFL draft. Congrats to everybody that heard their names read. Shedeur Sanders did end up getting his name read there towards the end in the fifth round. Made it all the way to the third day, and eventually went to the Browns after they drafted another quarterback before him, Dylan Gabriel from Hawaii. Played at a couple different schools as well. So you might remember Dylan Gabriel actually from going up against Zach Wilson back in the day as well. So it all comes full circle. Dylan Gabriel was at UCF, so down there in Florida a few years ago during Zach Wilson's big season. So love, talking quarterbacks. Hopefully, you always hope that it works out for these guys, that they go to a good organization. Can't always say that the Cleveland Browns are seen as a top tier professional sports organization. But who knows? Luckily, I think there was some more diversity with a lot of these local picks. Chiefs, a great organization. I think the Bills are kind of seen as a great organization now as well. With you've got Josh Allen there, and the Giants. Who knows? It could be a similar situation to what Zach Wilson encountered there, with some difficult seasons, a lot of pressure, or they can kind of give Dart some time. There are other quarterbacks on that roster right now in New York with the Giants: Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston. So it won't all fall on Jackson Dart's shoulders right away. Might give him some opportunity to kind of grow, a la Patrick Mahomes, like he did with Alex Smith in Kansas City. So bit of a different situation, and like I mentioned, not with the Jets, who seem like kind of a cursed organization at this point. So there you go. A quick summary of the NFL draft. No BYU selections this year, which may be a bit of a hot topic. I believe first time um, since 2020 that there were no BYU players selected in the NFL draft. So something to look at there. Certainly will not become a pattern. I cannot imagine with some of the talent, and especially the season that BYU had last year. Might be maybe a bit surprising that with that success, a top 15 team, they didn't get players selected. But that means that they have good players coming back. You got Jake Retzlaff, quarterback. So I guess that should be a little comforting as well for BYU fans that none of your great players left for the NFL. So much more to talk about there as we get into the summer, free agency, several players who were not drafted signing free agent deals, going to different training camps, etc. So something to watch there as we get into kind of the doldrums of the typical football, basketball, big sport schedule here over the next few months. However, as I've mentioned before, there is indeed a sport, professional sport here in the state of Utah still going on, and that would be soccer. The other football, European football, play it with your feet, we call it soccer. And those two teams, the Utah Royals and Real Salt Lake, faced some difficult stretches over the last couple weeks. Um, split last week. The Royals got to win their first win of the season. RSL lost. This week it flips back the other way. The Royals went on the road to Houston. I picked up a 1-0 loss to the Dash. RSL, on the other hand, also on the road, but picking up a W, a 3-1 victory over San Diego FC. If you'll remember earlier this season, San Diego FC, they're in their first season, expansion club, brand new players, brand new coach, brand new everything. And they came to America First Field and beat RSL 3-1 with a couple goals and stoppage time to kind of stun and, surprise because you don't expect that out of a new team all the time. Um, and RSL turns that around, goes to their place, and hands San Diego their first loss in their home stadium. So the first time that expansion team has ever lost, that is at the hands of Real Salt Lake. Diego Luna with 2 goals in the city that bears his name, San Diego. Diego Luna, San Diego Luna. Is he a saint? We may know here shortly. Great goals there. One from distance, another penalty, thanks to a handball early in the second half on San Diego. RSL's been on the wrong end of many referee calls this season. A couple red cards. There was actually another red card at the end of this match as well, a double yellow card on Bodie Hidalgo. So that's three reds in 10 matches for RSL, though one was rescinded. Diego Luna got a red card last week. In our off week, we didn't get to talk about it. But he did indeed pick up a red card. That was later looked at because RSL appealed that decision to the league. And that red card was taken away because it was deemed an incorrect decision, which the referee probably could have seen in the moment. He was told to go to the video monitor and look at the play that he initially called a red card on. And he stuck to his guns in that situation. Nonetheless, another very exciting match for RSL. A couple penalties in San Diego, um, but they come out with that penalty, and then the third goal, first goal in an RSL uniform by defender Sam Junka. He came from FC Dallas in that trade that sent Anderson Julio, a striker, to Texas. This defender, Sam Junka, comes in return, picks up his first goal in San Diego. He came on, unfortunately for Brian Vera, who had a concussion. There was a tough collision between goalkeeper Rafael Cabral and Vera as Cabral was coming out to try and hit a ball that was bouncing kind of toward his box. It was in the air though, so he had to kind of jump to get to it. And Brian Vera happened to be right in his path as he was jumping. They collided, hit Vera's head. He goes down and has to leave the match pretty early on, 15th, 16th minute, with a concussion. They said on the broadcast initially that he forgot everything that happened after warm-ups in the game. So probably about a 20 to 30 minute period there that he forgot with the concussion. Who knows if that memory has come back now, but I thought that was interesting. Hope that Brian Vera is okay, though. I'm sure that they're treating those concussion symptoms well, as they always do in those situations with great training staff. So he comes out nonetheless, and Junka, for the better, comes on and scores his first goal in the second half. So it's tied 1-1 at halftime. Luna gets another goal for the game winner, and then Junka seals it with that third goal. So 3-1 RSL in that road game to hand San Diego their first home loss. Um, Maybe a sign of turning some things around for Real Salt Lake. Still a losing record now, 4 wins, 6 losses, still no draws on the season. So for all of you fans that are always at it in the comments of the RSL articles saying 0-0 shouldn't happen, 1-1 tie shouldn't happen in sports, you should be happy so far because it's been 10 games and they haven't had a draw. So No ties for RSL. And but they've got some tough ones coming up. This was the first of three road games in a row for RSL, and next week it does not get any easier. Heading to Vancouver, who currently is the Western Conference leader, number one in the conference, Vancouver Whitecaps. So that'll be a handful for RSL next week. Saturday, kind of a double situation. Royals at home, um, I believe against Portland. I could be wrong. Um, and then RSL on the road at Vancouver. So we'll have those recaps for you next Sunday. In addition to looking, ahead to and back at what's coming up in these next few weeks. It's maybe not a lot of games happening when it comes to Utah Jazz, Utah Hockey Club, but expect some announcements here over the next few weeks. We might be hearing what the official mascot name is for the Utah Hockey Club. On May 12th, we'll be finding out whether or not the Jazz get the number one pick in the NBA draft. So it is draft season, NFL first, then NBA, then NHL. So we're into that time. Important decisions being made that impact the games that will be played in the fall. So if you're not paying attention now, there is still plenty of interesting stuff going on. One more business item that we didn't get to touch on because of the break last week in our show was the sale of Real Salt Lake's majority ownership to the Miller family. Gail Miller, wife of Larry H. Miller, who has since passed. Gail and her family, her sons mostly, will be part of this leadership group who's taking over the majority share of RSL and the Utah Royals from David Blitzer, who is a partner of Ryan Smith. Blitzer was the majority owner with Ryan Smith as a minority, but Smith has since gotten out of soccer. He's focusing solely on hockey and jazz. And Blitzer takes his place as the minority owner. Larry Schmiller Company, obviously very well known here in the state of Utah, owners of the Jazz for decades. They've got their movie theaters, of course, car dealerships that people know about. So the Salt Lake Bees have been and continue to be under the ownership of Miller Sports and Entertainment, who is now the official owner of professional soccer here in the state. So interesting things happening there. Last Friday, they had that big announcement. The governor was there, both commissioners from MLS and NWSL were there. So that was kind of a fun opportunity to recognize soccer in the state and hopefully its future with the Millers suddenly showing some interest, some investment, a couple new players as well signing with RSL this week. Um, and who knows, they've mentioned the stadium a couple times. They're going to keeping these teams in Sandy, America First Field. That's not moving. But the interesting thing is the Millers have their headquarters, Larry H. Miller Company headquarters across State Street in that Jordan Commons area where the Jordan Commons Megaplex Theater is, just right there by that Joe's Crab Shack, and former location of the Mayan for all my old timers out there. That's where their headquarters is. So, they've got that right across the street. They're familiar kind of with that Sandy area, and it's been mentioned that there will be some renovations to the stadium, some enhancements in that area in the Sandy Jordan Commons America First Field area to add some more restaurants, add some more parking, make it easier, hopefully, for fans to both get to the games, but also enjoy some time in that area around the stadium as well. So, some things to look forward to that you wouldn't have with the former ownership group. The Millers bring in kind of an interesting new dynamic there. And with the way the teams are looking as well, RSL looking like they're trying to turn some things around. Brought in two new players from Sporting Kansas City, who is a longtime rival of RSL, and two attacking players. Johnny Russell, who, fun fact, is the leading scorer in the rivalry between Real Salt Lake and Sporting Kansas City. He's now an RSL man, right winger, 35 years old. So, we don't know how much is quite is left in the tank. But also brought in a guy 10 years younger than him, William Agata, a striker. And he, gets traded to RSL at the deadline on Wednesday. and is in training the next day, Thursday, and made his debut today on Saturday in San Diego as a substitute. So shout out to those guys coming on and kind of bringing some new energy to this Real Salt Lake team that had, like I mentioned, lost 6 games in 9 chances and was a bit down. And I think bringing in some fresh energy, bringing in some reinforcements. Head coach Pablo Mastroeni has mentioned that that just does good things for the morale of the group. And we saw that today on Saturday. So could be a sign of things to come. And more goal scorers, more goals can never hurt. This team had struggled to score 8 goals so far in 9 games up until today, and they scored three tonight to get that total up to 11. First time RSL scored 3 goals since September of last year. So certainly going in the right direction. Whether or not they can continue this momentum, of course, is the question. And we shall see. With Utah Royals, on the other hand, it's just a matter of getting healthy. They keep losing players. Lost one of their several new players they just signed in the offseason. One tore an ACL. One has yet to come back from an ACL injury, and another, Bianca St. George, just got injured in training this week. Was not able to play in that Houston game. And then Claudia Sornosa, one of their main starters, a midfielder, left the game really early in Houston with an injury. So they're hoping to just get some healthy players back. We shall see over the next few weeks if that happens or not, because their trade window is currently closed. They're not adding any more players right now. So it's kind of, what they have is what they have. And their injury list is going 8, 9, 10 players deep. So hoping that those roads can get healthy, and if so, we might see as the weather turns warm, the fortunes as well may start to look up for both these soccer teams, because that's what we got for the next few months. As far as games being played, we got soccer and some other fun stuff going on coming up as well. So stay tuned with us, guys. Appreciate you listening today. We'll catch you next time.